I'm here today to share with you my process for creating extensions for students. This is something that usually happens when you have extra time at the end of a lesson. I personally don't usually plan my extensions ahead of time because I've been teaching online for over 4 years now, and I can quickly think on my feet, what does the student need? What have they shown me in this class that they can do and can't do? And then I have an arsenal of common extensions that I can draw from just automatically. So today I thought I'd share that arsenal with you and tell you about different extensions that I use for different students. You can either create this into a list that you just keep on nearby, keep handy for you, or you might need to plan this in advance. All right. So my first instinct when I have extra time is to simply talk to the student. It sounds really simple, but students really like it when you show an interest in them. And so you can ask them basic questions like, what's your name? How old are you? When's your birthday? Maybe you pull out, I have a calendar up here that when I had extra time and a new student, I would ask them their name, how old they are, and then I would put their birthday in my calendar. So that would show them that I care about them and encourage them to come back for more classes with me because I have their birthday and other teachers don't. You also have to keep in mind the student's level, though, when you're asking them questions. So, like a very, very young, low level student might not understand what you mean when you say birthday. So, you might have to plan extra time to create support so that they understand what you're asking them. Or you might just stick to basic questions like, how old are you? Do you have a brother? You can also ask them about school, maybe, like, what do you learn in school? Do you like English? Do you like math? Do you like whatever their native language is? Maybe you ask them about what books they like to read, but it really depends on the level of your student and what they already know how to talk about so that you can actually create a conversation with your student. Now, if you don't really know what to ask the student, you can also use conversation starters. And so there are different ways that you can do conversation starters. One way is to simply make a list of questions that you want to ask the student. I think it's a really cute idea to have like a little jar full of popsicle sticks, and then you pull out a popsicle stick and it has a question on it that you can ask the student. And that way you can also plan that content ahead of time. But again, you have to keep in mind the level of the students. Maybe you have like a low level jar and a high level jar. However, my favorite way to create extensions is by talking about pictures, because pictures can be applied to all levels and they take up less room in your classroom because we all know how cluttered it can be. And it's not like you have a lot of space when you're teaching online. You don't have a whole classroom, you just have your desk. And so I'm going to show you a feature on my website that can be used to create conversation starters. All right. So this is my website, Rocca Teacher. You can find it at rockabusiness.com/teach. And if you go into resources, and then this image generator right here is a conversation starter. So you press the blue button, click here to play, and then you click show me an image. And it'll give you an image. Now, if you don't like this image, you can just click through until you find one that you do like. So like this one's really cool. You can ask, where is that? Or what do you see? Look, this is a bridge. Where is that? Is that America? Is it China? Is it France? Do you know something in France? What does your city look like? So that's kind of just getting the conversation going for you. I don't actually know where this is. It looks like maybe Washington, D.C. to me, but I'm afraid that I might be wrong. So yeah, you can just start talking with your student, and maybe if it is Washington, D.C., or you just want to say that it's Washington, D.C., because honestly, your student won't really know the difference. You can then point on your map and be like, look, here's Washington, D.C., it's up here. So cool. Now, where do you live? I live in California. Is it close? Is it far? So you just are using this to just start conversations with your student and ask them questions about the picture. If it's an older level student, then they might even be able to create a whole story. So they might want to create an action story where they're like, the bad guy was running across the bridge and then Superman came and blew it up, or something like that. So you can have students create different stories. If it's a lower level student, you can teach them what they see, and you can like showing them Washington, D.C. That's something I would probably do for, I would say, a low to mid-level student as well, someone who can just look at the map and be like, oh yeah, I understand that's a place and then that's a place and they're far, something like that. All right, so another extension you might want to do if you have a little bit of extra time and you notice that a student is struggling with a particular thing, you might want to what we call correct the misconception. So maybe they are struggling with the pronunciation of a certain word, like the letter R is very difficult for a lot of students to pronounce because it's pronounced differently in many different languages. So if they're having trouble with that, maybe you practice saying the letter R with them. If they're having trouble maybe differentiating between two very similar vocabulary words, you can talk about, this is what more means and this is what most means. Let's practice more with more and most. So you can just correct misconceptions. However, this can also be a little bit dangerous to do depending on how well you know the student and their disposition, because some students might get very frustrated very quickly when you try to do this and just give up and stop talking to you. So you really need to think about the student and what they are emotionally capable of doing at this point. If you don't think that they can handle extra corrections or even extra content at this point, if they're just exhausted because they worked so hard all the rest of class, you might want to slow it down for them. And instead of correcting the misconception here, maybe you give them some notes and feedback on the class afterwards that ask them to practice this thing at home. So that's another thing you can do as an extension, is just correcting any misconceptions a student might have. However, be very careful because a student can get upset. The next way, and my favorite way, to extend content for students is through games. So I'm going to show you 4 different games today that you can use. And the first one is again on my website. So I'm going to share my screen again. Go back to this image generator, but instead of the image generator, we're going to go to this other game, Guess the Word. So this is really good if you're screen sharing with your student and they can't draw anything themselves, this is probably the game that you want to use. So the student will just tell you a letter and you type the letter here and you click guess and it'll say the letters that have been guessed here, how many guesses are remaining, whether the guess was actually in the word, and then you just keep going until you can guess the word. And if you accidentally put something that's like not a letter or something, don't worry, the computer can tell. So the student just keeps guessing until they guess the letter, and then let's actually fail this on purpose. Let's see what happens if the student can't guess the letter on time. So it'll say what the word is. So the word is both, and then you can talk about what that word means, maybe give an example of how to use it in a sentence and encourage a student to try to use this, because the words for this game are not necessarily vocabulary words. So they might encounter new words that they can then you can then talk about and what they mean and when to use them, and have the student try to use them as well, or even just try to read them, like say this is a b, 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 o, th makes f, b, o, f, both. So you can just do simple phonics, even if it's like a complicated word and the student can't, maybe won't understand the meaning. Like the word thus is in here somewhere, and it's not really a word that students need to know, but it could help them practice saying the z sound in thus. So this is a really good game, especially if your student is unable to draw on the screen themselves because you're just screen sharing with them. All right, so some other games you might want to play with your students that are especially fun if your student has a drawing tool is one of them is Pictionary. So I'm going to show you how you can play Pictionary in an online class. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and this is just a blank Word document that I pulled up. And then if you click up here where the ribbon was, and you just click collapse ribbon, it'll make it so that it's a bigger screen for you to work on. And then you go to your Zoom tools at the top and you can click annotate, which is just a drawing tool, and then just make sure that it's set to draw on here. And I'm going to go with a little bit thicker of a pencil, and I'm just going to write, let's say my student's name is Amy. Ooh, let's not use red because a lot of cultures writing your name in red is bad luck. So clear. Undo, undo, undo. There we go. Let's write in blue. Let's change the color to blue. So we have Amy is my student. And then I am Joe. And I'm going to actually change this to make it a bit smaller so that I have room to keep track of scores as well. Excuse me, draw please. Oh, okay, there we go. So here's Amy. Ugh, made her A weird. Writing on the board as a teacher also takes a lot of practice. So you might have to actually sit and practice writing on the board yourself. But this is just the basic setup to create Pictionary. And then what you can do is you just start drawing, you know, maybe I'm drawing this. And I ask the student, what is it? It's an apple. And then the student gets it, you give them, I don't know why my headset turned off there. Anyways, so you just give the student a point if they can guess the word, and then if they can draw, you have them draw a picture, and then you guess what it is. And if you can guess it, give yourself a point. And then just keep going back and forth. If the student can't draw, you can still play this, but it's a little less fun for them. But you can just draw and have the student guess what it is. And this is a great way to practice vocabulary with the student. You can even have them make sentences. So if you draw an apple, maybe they have to say, this is an apple, or it is red, or something like that. So Pictionary is a really good game. The next game, which is surprisingly really popular. I told my friend that this was a really popular game for students, and he was like, ew, why? Because it's so easy and it's so simple, but students love it. And if you've seen this, you probably already know what it is, and it's Tic Tac Toe. However, we still want to be able to teach the students English while they play this. So in each box, you can put a vocabulary word. I'm going to use the text function here so that it's a bit easier for me. So maybe we're doing colors. So I'm going to put red here. I'm going to put blue here. You can even change the text color so that it matches the color that they're supposed to say if they're a younger student. Yellow, black, orange, white, and let's put Amy because our student is Amy and she'll think it's so funny that you put her name in the puzzle. And then you just go back and forth with the student playing tic-tac-toe. You again have to select your draw tool, and you might have to explain that. The way I explain it is this. So I put X, you put O. I put X, you put O. I put X, you put O. I put X. 1, 2, 3, winner! This is a symbol for cool in China, so I use it a lot because I've been teaching Chinese students, so I go, winner! And it just shows them how to play the game, and then you can just undo all those marks that you made, and then have the student go and be like, you go, X. And then the student will draw an X, and tell them they have to say the word when they draw the X. So if they put an X here, they have to say purple. And then you put the O and make sure you say it too, because you have to follow the rules too. So you say green, the student puts a yellow. You might want to let them win the first couple of times, but then they start to catch on to you. So don't let them win too much. So maybe you want to go blue and then be like, sorry. And you want to go, where can you go to be winner? And they'll go here, black, or maybe they don't get it. And they put here and go red because they're trying to stop you. Or maybe they just don't really understand the game at all and they go here and they put white. And then maybe you want to encourage them to win. So you keep putting your marks somewhere weird until they finally get a win. I think that was actually me, that one and that one. Sometimes you're going to win because the student just doesn't understand the game. And that's fine as well, because the point is that they're practicing the vocabulary. If they're a higher level student, you can also put sentences in here. If they're practicing phonics, you can put different phonics sounds in here, maybe different letter blends. So this is a really fun game, and students actually really love it. Like, it seems really boring to me as an adult, but students love this game, and I have no idea why. And you want your student to be able to draw for this one because it's very similar to that computer game at the beginning. However, This one's a bit more fun and interactive because the student has a drawing tool. If they don't have a drawing tool, then I think that that computer game is probably a better choice for you. But if they're able to draw, this is also a really fun one. And it's also Hangman, of course. And because you're the one making the game, you can put whatever word you want. So you can put vocabulary words, which might be a bit easier for them. So if we're doing colors again, I might put spaces for my letters. And that's it. I just put spaces for my letters. Maybe the student doesn't know the alphabet very well, so I'm going to put A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. You can see that I have done this a lot because I was able to type the entire alphabet. Oh, I missed the X. But I was able to type the entire alphabet without too much difficulty. And then we can just move that up here, down here, whatever's easier for the student. And then again, let's put our names. So here's Joe again. And here's Amy. And this will probably, again, be for higher level students, but just tell the student, you know, what letter do you like? Choose a letter. They might say C, and you say, oh, no C. Then they see E, and you say, yes, there is an E. Look, here's the E. What has E here? And they just keep on guessing. And then if they get one wrong, like they did before, what I do instead of drawing a dead man, because I have issues with that, is I draw a snowman. So you can have the snowman be as tall as he wants. He can have a little hat. He can have a scarf. He has to have eyes and buttons and a nose. So there's lots of chances for the student to guess what the word is. I think I've only had a student lose to this one time, and that's because she really didn't understand what was going on at all. But in my 4 years of teaching, I've only had one student lose and not get this because I really try to, like, I just keep adding things to the snowman. And this is really fun for the student because then when you're done, I erase all of the snowman and my word and all the letters the student has guessed. If the student has a drawing tool, you can ask them to put a word for you to guess. And the student really loves this because then they get a chance to draw their own snowman. Or some of them might get really creative. I had one student who drew a mountain, and every time I got a letter wrong, he drew a tree on the mountain. So let them draw whatever they want. Just make sure that they know that they have to keep drawing something. So they're not just sitting there drawing, but they have to draw one more thing and add one more thing to their picture every time you get something wrong. So that can be really fun for students as well. And it's also a really great way to get to know your students. And then the snowman or whatever they end up drawing can be another conversation starter. So this one is really good when you have a lot of extra time because it can take a while for the student to guess the word. And then afterwards, you have a lot of conversation starters that you can use from this game alone. So this is my absolute favorite game and my favorite extension for students. And those are all the extensions that I use for myself in my teaching. And if you have any ideas for extensions of your own, please let me know by either emailing me at info@rockabusiness.com, or you can also comment if this is on YouTube or TikTok. You can leave a comment in the comments below. Thanks. Happy teaching.